Story 1. Making their children feel that loving them is an obligation and expecting them to give back someday. I would raise my kids with unconditional love. Story 2. As a child with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, my dad was the "you do it right or not at all" dad. This was torture. Nothing I ever did was good enough. Wash the car. You missed a spot, wash it again. Do the dishes? You didn't put them in the rack correctly. Do it again. Help him varnish some wood? The varnish wasn't even. Sand it down and do it again. At no point did I ever do anything for or with him that was good enough. I'm sure he thought it was a teaching moment. I have to fight this every day with my children because now I understand. I also know that accepting a little bit of imperfection and having them do it better next time is much better for their mental health. Story 3. Where do I start? Screaming at your children and blaming them for your own failures. Corporal punishment, including being thrown across a room. 3-day fights forcing the children to hide scared upstairs while listening to things being smashed. Throwing away toys and breaking them as punishment. There are other things I will not share here as well. My life has been seriously affected by the above. I am still dealing with it in my 50s. But my son is the happiest, smartest, and friendliest child ever. All I did was the polar opposite of my parents, and he has turned out brilliantly. Story 4. Having 3 children before the age of 25 with 2 different men and no financial stability. Going to prison. Causing a fatal car crash. Being hypersexual to the point of putting your children at risk for the sake of casual sex. Refusing to change your lifestyle to make things better for your children. Story 5. Not making my emotional burdens my child's burdens. Not making my enemies his enemies. Not letting him know about financial anxiety or issues, as if he asked to be born and live costs money. To name a few. Story 6. My mom is a hoarder, and I developed serious obsessive-compulsive disorder because of it. I guess I forced myself not to repeat the unhealthy cycle. Story 7. I'll never raise a doormat. Being kind, gentle, and meek are all great characteristics in moderation. They should not be fixed personality traits. My mother raised me to be nice and kind to everyone regardless of how they treat me because God is just and people always reap what they sow. This is the most passive doormat statement I have ever heard in my life, and I would never raise any child of mine to be this way just so others feel comfortable or so they can be liked. Story 8. Being so focused on grades. The amount of anxiety I had at school. Got 95% on your mathematics test. Why wasn't it 100%? Story 9. Staying in contact with family members. I have seen my parents endure serious difficulties caused by family members who do nothing in return. They really should cease contact with some family members. Story 10. In the case of my father, he would become extremely drunk and physically abuse his wife and child because he felt inadequate when intoxicated. In the case of my mother, she would neglect feeding my 3 children because she needed money for alcohol and cigarettes. Then she would come home very late with a random man each night, forgetting that she had children who might find her naked with someone on the living room floor. Story 11. I am a woman, so I would say having a career and financial independence before getting married, corporal punishment, and the mentality that older people are always right. Story 12. Thinking that giving them everything I needed from my childhood is going to make them turn out okay. My dad thought that because he gave me everything he ever wanted, I had no reason to be depressed. In reality, I am a completely different person. Story 13. I want my children to be able to come to me without fear. Even if they make mistakes, I want them to know that I love them and they can always talk to me. My love will not be conditional. Story 14. The screaming at each other. What is the point of sending me upstairs to play if you are just going to yell and shout, traumatizing your child from another room with problems I do not have the capacity to understand? Communication. My parents were very supportive but did not provide much guidance, so I always felt like I was on my own and unable to ask for help even though they were perfectly willing all along. I would have tried much harder if I knew I had backup. Story 15. Do not physically discipline your children, and do not engage in inappropriate behavior with them. These are fundamental standards that should be upheld. Story 16. Becoming an addict. My dad used needles, contracted acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, and passed away when I was 14. He contracted it when I was 6 months old. My mom was an addict but has now been sober for 13 to 14 years. When I was a teenager, I used to party with her just to make sure she did not overdose. During that time, she asked her 14-year-old daughter if I wanted a hit of crack. I said, "No, mother, I do not want any," and she blew it in my face. I held my breath and fanned it away. I am glad she got sober when she did because I was very close to cutting her out of my life. I am just a marijuana user who is too scared to even try psilocybin mushrooms. Story 17. Spending time with us kids. My dad would rather watch football all day on Sunday. It was his day off, so we could not bother him. My parents would hang out with other adults, hire babysitters, and go to nice restaurants and parties. We were treated like second-class citizens. At 15, I was told to get a job if I wanted extra money. I worked all year long in high school. At 18, I was told to get out. They refused to pay for college because they had to save for retirement. I made sure that when I had kids, I would spend all my time with them. I do. Story 18. My mother left me when I was 2, and my father was emotionally unavailable. He married a woman who abused me to the point where she pushed food down my throat with her fingers when I was 10 because I chewed my food too many times. I now have 4 adult sons. I did not abuse them. They never knew what it felt like to be beaten with a belt. I showered them with love and affection. I may have actually been a little overprotective. I did have a boyfriend who thought it was okay to spank my 8-year-old once. I kicked him out instantly. I protected my sons where my parents never protected me. Story 19. Cheating and having children. Luckily, my parents were honest with me and told me how unwise it was. I witnessed so much of a broken home and learned how to co-parent through all that. Being a child from that, I can't help but never cheat no matter what, and not take a chance to put children in a situation like that. I can promise I won't cheat, but I can't promise my partner won't because even when you love each other like my parents did, situations happen and people make mistakes. At least I won't put myself in that position. It was difficult growing up in it, but I refuse to be the one who does something like that. Story 20. Telling me to follow my dreams instead of doing something practical, having a reasonable goal, and seeing it through to completion. Story 21. Waiting until your dreams come true to travel is unwise. Life is too short, and you never know when your time is coming. If you have the means, travel and live life now. Story 22. My mom drank a lot. I don't even have alcohol in my house. I won't be the type of mother my children have to walk on eggshells around because I know how difficult that feels with my mother's moods. Story 23. Staying together for the children when they are in the next room searching for divorce lawyers for themselves. Story 24. Beating the children or sacrificing them to save myself. All in all, I think I have completed this task quite successfully. Story 25. Pushing religion and Christianity, but I doubt it will be a problem, and it was all mind control on their part anyway. Story 26. 1. Spankings. 2. Treating children differently. 3. Treating grandchildren differently. 4. Being selfish. 5. Being narcissistic. 6. Being judgmental. Story 27. Blame and punish everyone when you know very well who did the bad thing. They wanted the guilty party to confess. He never did. Story 28. I'm blessed with great parents. Did they do some things I didn't like? Sure. But the overall experience made me who I am, and I think hopefully people who know me agree that I'm a pretty nice person. Story 29. Where to start? Seriously, they were psychologically and mildly physically abusive. I never felt like I could trust them. My dad was pretty much not present in my life. My mom tried to keep me away from my dad. He should have fought harder. I have never been able to ask for help or seek emotional support without getting in trouble for it. The list just goes on. Story 30. Making sure the children never feel alone in this world. If I cannot help, I can certainly hold their hand while they are going through it. Story 31. My mother's car battery is currently dead, so we started it with an external starter battery until the replacement arrives. 2 days ago, she needed to go somewhere quickly. I helped her start the car, and she drove off without the starter battery. Then, after turning off her car at the location, she was unable to call me because she forgot her phone. Someone else tried to help her start the car, causing a short circuit and completely disabling the car. I am determined to never make such a serious mistake. Story 32. Allowing my family to treat me poorly because we are related. I have found much peace since cutting contact with them, including my mother. Story 33. Cheating. After everything my father told my siblings and me about what our mother had been doing for years, I will follow in my father's footsteps by being faithful to my partner. Story 34. If I ever have children, unlike my father, I will not put my selfish desires first. I will be present and supportive, both emotionally and financially, whenever my child needs me, even as an adult. Unlike my mother, I will not let my mental health issues interfere with making my children's lives as good as possible. I will take responsibility for my actions and not make excuses. I will be a stronger role model and put my children first. Story 35. Abandoning my child, telling them that their new partner comes before them, being critical and cruel, and not listening to them destroy self-esteem. I have done the exact opposite of what I experienced with my parents and am proud of the close relationship my 19-year-old son and I have. He is an honest, loving, confident, and compassionate young man who respects women immensely. Story 36. Trying to protect me by setting up rules that don't help at all. Like trying to shield me from sexual assault by insisting I couldn't wear my hair down, have mascara that isn't clear, or a sideswept fringe, or red nail polish. All it taught me is that if someone violates such boundaries, it's my own fault. Rules became stricter whenever my family noticed any boys looking at me. What that did was prevent me from receiving compliments or attention that made me believe I was someone boys would be interested in at all. So if an emotionally abusive one was involved, well, it's not like I could do better. My mother figured it would keep me away from human traffickers who target insecure girls because they're easier to manipulate. The makeup and tight clothes don't have to be included with the doll, so to speak. So in fact, if anything, she made me more vulnerable to abuse. If I ever have children, they will have a lot of freedom in how they want to look, and will be taught that yes, the way they present themselves impacts how others see them and what role others might cast them in their lives. But under no circumstances is it their fault if their no isn't respected. Story 37. They never healed their own childhood trauma. I am not repeating the same cycle. My child will not bear the weight of my unresolved issues. That is what therapy and inner work are for. She has no part in that, and it is my responsibility to manage my own emotional regulation, not hers. I will not do to her what my parents did to me. Story 38. Spending hundreds of dollars a week on beer, whiskey, cigarettes, and the lottery so the kids could get the Aldi version of every single thing they asked for. You don't need Nike shoes. These Pro Wings are just as good for basketball. This message is sponsored by Miller Lite, Marlboro, and the Missouri Lottery. Story 39. 1. Constantly being on a diet. Both parents are serial yo-yo dieters. 2. Being terrible with money. They are great at making money but cannot seem to save or budget even if their life depended on it. Story 40. Do not become an addict. Addiction runs on both my mother's side. She got clean when she became pregnant, and my biological father. Story 41. Genuinely, my mother was very aggressively competitive with me. She would tell me all the time how she was much prettier than me when she was a teenager. She was always comparing me to herself. It really damaged the mother and daughter bond we could have had. I will never do that to my children. Story 42. Not working so much that you miss their childhood. My parents worked too hard to get us things in the 1980s. In the end, the things were not worth as much as the time they missed out on with us. This is their advice to me as a parent. Story 43. Not telling my children I will harm them for telling others how I am treating them. Not trying to impress strangers and then treating my children poorly. Not making them lie to their father for me about bills and money. Not having to collect the mail or answer the phone first so my father would not know. I could keep going. I am pretty sure many people online would say it is normal, but treating anyone poorly is not normal, especially a child. Story 44. I do not know. The one issue that stands out is not paying a company or individual fully when they are under contract to build or repair something. My father had two contractors take the money and disappear on two different buildings. Story 45. Getting so behind on my bills that they run my life. Once you slip behind, you are paying more in late fees than the bills sometimes. When I was growing up, we frequently had the power, water, or gas turned off. We even had family meetings about it. Should we let them turn off the gas and just take cold showers and cook with a hot plate, or turn off power and cook with gas and have hot water, but the fridge had to be emptied? This happened at least once a year or so. My mom could have paid the bills if we had budgeted better and she wasn't so impulsive. She had an okay job, but she bought a house so we couldn't qualify for food stamps or anything, even though buying the house was cheaper than paying rent. It was a long time ago. On the other hand, I've known how to turn gas or water back on since I was about 10. Story 46. When my parents received extra money, they spent it on new carpets, a kitchen renovation, or a bathroom remodel. They never tried to pay down their mortgage and couldn't understand why, after paying it for 40 years, it was still so large. They downsized without researching the area they moved to and lost even more money on the house they bought, despite making improvements. They repeated this mistake when they moved again. After this much stress, they blamed each other and divorced. One is now completely reliant on my sister and lives with her, while the other is in a council-run care home. They do not have a penny left. Story 47. Weaponizing a child against my husband. I do not have children at the moment, but if I did, this is one thing I would not do. Story 48. Learn them the way society wants. I have realized so much nonsense came out of my mom's mouth, not because she was lying, but because she thought it was right. I never noticed that someone was different, even if I saw they could be more or less something. Most people have something. Then she started talking about a boy in my class who suffers from attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and has to use medication because of it. Drugs are illegal to most people, but with his condition, it is necessary. After that, everything that boy did made me think, it's an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder thing. It's the condition. Same with a gay man. He was a hairdresser and I went to him, he was a friendly guy. But then my mom said, you don't talk badly about him because of that. I never did anyway, but she was afraid I would. Years later, I have thought, congratulations. You made me feel sorry for gay people and made them seem different. Reacting like, no, this is for adults. Or no, this is so stupid and can be dangerous. About, for example, smoking, I never liked it, but things that a child is refused become more interesting. How can so many parents ignore that? It is why youth keep doing it. They feel cool and adult. If you were just normal and chill and say, whatever, you are going to regret all the money spent on this and have gray skin, they won't find it that interesting. Story 49. Enforcing diets to control our weight while disguising it as staying healthy. We were already healthy, athletic, and even a little underweight, and it disrupted many things. Story 50. Having children. My undiagnosed parents passed down heart disease, borderline personality disorder, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, autism, and dental problems to me. I refuse to make a child suffer the way I have. Story 51. I grew up in a family where the oldest child was responsible for supporting younger siblings through college, weddings, and buying a home. Then the oldest would work and financially support the second child, and so on. The youngest child would be responsible for caring for the elderly parents. Although we encourage our children to be there for one another, if possible, we do not require any of them to care for us. We have had hard times but have never asked our children for help. We chose to have them. We just hope they visit or stay in contact. If we reach a point where they offer help, that would be their decision. Story 52. I am not going to just let my adult children drift away. My parents taught my brother and me to be highly independent from a young age, then acted offended and shocked that we are still highly independent in our 50s. I taught my children to try new things, but my door was always open for a helping hand or to listen to their problems. We are very close and I want it to stay that way. To be fair, my husband, their father, passed away recently, and his illness and death made us a very tight-knit family. Story 53. I have lovely parents, but they were very free and unstructured. I really had to teach myself how to have structure and routine once I became an adult. I also had to teach myself how to do things that I think would have been better learned and established as a habit at a much younger age. With my own children, I plan to instill the habits I wish I had at a younger age. Story 54. They were raising a child instead of a person. They were very worried about me being obedient, reflecting well on them in social settings, and making sure I did not make a mess. In any negative situation, even if it directly involved me, they told me to go play so they could handle it. They forgot to teach me how to be a healthy individual. Story 55. Having children. She told me herself that she does not like kids, so I do not know what compelled her to do it. Social pressure? Loneliness? Story 56. Not apologizing. I understand that parents are not perfect and can make mistakes, but my mother especially refused to apologize even after I confronted her. She made excuse after excuse. I am too sensitive. I am making up stories. It was not as bad as I said. It was not until I became an adult that I realized how much that affected me. Story 57. 1. I read to my children every night. They are always working. 2. I do not try to muffle my children when they express their feelings. 3. I do not listen to complaints from adults about my child. I always listen to my child first. They know right from wrong. If they are wrong, we will address it at home. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.